In today's eMoney tip of the week, we're going to continue a series on stock options. Again, this has been one of the most requested topics. I know how to do stock options, but I'm by no means an expert. Will has taught me everything about stock options inside of eMoney. So we were talking about this to bring him on as a guest. We try to figure it out in our schedules, and I'm just delighted to have him on here because now you get this resource that I've always had access to for years. It's not always Will, a close friend, but probably the best I know outside of myself of using eMoney and use it for the clients. So we're going to continue our series here on stock options. And today we're going to focus on lots and continue to put that input in there and a little bit on strategy. Will be future videos where we get into the details of how to build out this strategy inside of a plan and the planning parts of it. But today we're going to focus on the lots and the strategy. So without further ado, Will, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so let's pick up right where we left off. So we had just finished up the basic entry. We went through the grants, and if you didn't catch that, it's going to be in the previous video. Just look online for the link to it. But what we did is we put in an RSU grant and non-qualified stock options. So when we're dealing with options like incentive stock options, non-qualified stock options, restricted options, options that really have optionalities, right? Because restricted RSUs, they're going to do what they're going to do. But there's a lot of equity compensation packages out there where there's real choice and real impact in how we advise and how the client ultimately decides to take, exercise, and sell those options, right? And so that's where the lots and the strategy come in. And what we're doing is we're going to work on this right now in the base plan. And whatever it is, and I always like when I think about my client's base plan, that's the current plan of whatever, if the client had never met me, what would they likely to have done? And it's usually pretty clear by what they have been doing in the past, right? And so what I want to describe here is what this client has done with the options that they've had. So we had a non-qualified grant that came out in January 1st, 2020. The first 2,000 shares vested in January of 2021. When it was vested, the client decided, let's take some money. Let's go on vacation, let's buy a car. And so we need to show that those options are no longer in the plan. What a lot of people who aren't as experienced will do in eMoney is they will actually go into the grant and just start knocking shares out of the grant. What that causes problems for you as an advisor later on down the road is you lose some of the tracking and accountability of what exactly has been done here. Now you're going back into multiple meeting notes and trying to divine, what it is that the client did at different points in time. I think one of the best ways to approach this is to keep it all nice and tight inside of eMoney. So at any point in time, you can come and see exactly what the client's history has been in regard to these specific stock options. So let's do that. And we're going to do that in the lots section. So coming into the lots, first thing, the most common mistake that I make, and I do this a lot and I do it all the time, and I just want to pull my hair out when I do it, is I don't select the right grant. So I'll come in here and I'll click on lots and I'll just start hammering away, putting data in, and then I realize that I'm in the wrong grant. And when you do it in the wrong grant, the only way to correct it is to delete it, go into the right grant, start over again. So first things first, always make sure you are in the correct grant. So in this case, the client had 2,000 shares exercised on January 1st, 2021. What they've told me is that they sold. They exercised all 2,000 and sold 1,000 of them. So to do that, we're going to make 2 entries here into the lot. And so put in your dates. So this is January 4th, 2021. If you try to do it outside of a date where there are no options available and you go to save this, it will kick an error at you. So there is some logic in the background keeping you on the straight and narrow. But make sure you get these dates right. Make sure you get these shares purchased correct. So shares purchased, in this case, the client sold or exercised and sold 1,000 and held on to another 1,000. To do this and to illustrate it, I got to put in 2 entries. It's not going to let me break those cells out separately inside of the same exercise. So in this case, they exercised 1,000 of those shares. Let's just say this was around $204 at the time of exercising, which was close to that. So sold, we'll say no, we're going to flip to yes. And the sale price, let's just say it was the exact same as the exercising price and it was on the same date as the exercise. And of course, I'm sitting there talking about dates and I mixed it up. So we've got the date purchased, January 4th, 2021, 1,000 shares purchased, and then we sold all those shares at that same price. I'm going to click add lot, and there we go. I've got one grant in. So we're going to do another lot for the shares that he exercised and then eventually is held on to. So let's go and get that date in. Another 1,000 shares, 204, no, add lot. And what you're going to see now is when you go back and look at your grants tab, the value of that grant has come down, right? Because now what's happened is the software knows that 1,000 of those shares are no longer there. They're represented somewhere else in the plan. Maybe it's in investments, maybe it was gone, flushed out in expenses, maybe it's represented somewhere on the balance sheet, maybe it's not. But it knows that those 1,000 shares aren't there. Now you have a much more accurate picture of what the client's current value actually is. And we've done that by keeping track of it in the lots. Anytime I want to come back and I want to see what's going on or what's been done with what's been done in the past, I can make an entry. And I can come and see that ledger of everything we've done with this client stock option, right? So it's a great way to keep tabs on your client's current allocations.
And we're going to go ahead and stop that tip right there. Just due to the length of this tip, we're going to split this one in two, but this is part of a 7-part series on stock options. Seem a bit confused because we picked up right where we left off? Go back and watch the first 3 videos. So part 1 was on basic input. Part 2, we focused on RSU input. Part 3, we focused on non-qualified stock option input. And this one we focused on lots. Our next video in the series coming out next week is going to be focused on the strategies tab inside of eMoney and how to build out those strategies eMoney. We hope this tip helped educate and empower you to do more plans for your clients so that you can impact more lives through financial planning. If you have some great tips we don't know about, we'd love to hear about them. If you have a better way of doing what we just showed you, we'd love to hear about that because we are a noble profession and together we can elevate the profession.